Welcome to the Art Training Tutorial Series. This series will take you through the creation of 3 basic art reports. In this first video, you will learn how to create a basic non-sponsored report. Let's get started. To access art, you will need to go to the URL www.art.ahc.umn.edu and use your X.500 information to log in. If you don't already have access, you can request it by contacting AHC. Once you have logged in, you will be taken to this opening screen, which defaults to sponsored. Thus, we will want to select non-sponsored and enter our chart string. After you have entered your chart string, carefully review the information that has been entered prior to hitting submit. This is important because the X in fields will prevent data from being pulled through, while leaving fields blank will result in roll-up information being pulled through. For example, looking at this report, if we had used chart string fund 1000 depth ID 11845 program 20088 and left the other fields blank without X's, we would be pulling together information for all the chart strings shown. Though, if we had left X's in and tried to pull information, we would have received information on none of these chart strings. Therefore, it is important to enter your chart string correctly to avoid report confusion. Back to the report we were working on. Once you hit submit, you will be taken to this chart string information page. Important items to note on this page are the start and end dates in addition to the calendar year of the report. For non-sponsored reports, the standard reporting time frame is the start and end of the fiscal year. But, for example, if your non-sponsored chart string is scheduled to end in March, you may want to update the end date to the end of that month in order to more accurately reflect projected expenses. Additionally, you will want to make sure the calendar year matches the time frame you are reporting on. To pull forward notes from the prior month, go back 1 month and select Submit. Once you hit submit, you will be taken to this notice. Select OK to continue. You will then be taken back to the chart string information page, where you can select the current month you would like to report on. Note, this step is not necessary if you report on a monthly basis, as notes will be pulled through from month to month. You will then be taken back to the chart string information page, where you can select the current month you would like to report on. Note, this step is not necessary if you report on a monthly basis, as notes will pull through from month to month. Then, select Submit. You will again be taken to the notice that your report has been successful. Select OK to continue. We will now go through the various entry screens available for non-sponsored reports. The first option, Chart String Information, is the screen we are currently on. You can go back to it at any time to update the report time frame, month, or year. First, we will look at the Transaction Reconciliation entry screen. On the Transaction Reconciliation screen, you can bring up transactions for the time frame of your report. You then have the option of checking the items off. This can be helpful if you want to verify receipts or spending trends. Note, none of the checks you make to verify various transactions will be reflected in your final reports. Thus, the option to use this feature is up to you and your department or division's needs. Once you have finished reconciling your transactions, you can begin entering notes and PI notes on this or any of the other entry screens. As you can see here, PI notes from the prior month have been pulled forward. These can then be used to guide notes for your current report. It is important to remember the difference between the Notes field and the PI Notes field when preparing your reports. Any notes saved in the Notes field will be permanently saved with the reports. You can see here that this chart string currently doesn't have any permanently saved notes. The option to use the Notes field is up to you. Times when using the Notes field might be useful is if you have a PI with a startup that will be funded in increments. Here is an example for chart string Fund 1000 Dept ID 11845 Program 20089 Employee ID 1472424. In the case of this chart string, the Notes field has been used to note what funding has been given as part of the startup package. This can be useful should someone in the future want to access the funding history for the chart string without going through months or years of PI notes. Back to the report we were working on. First, you will want to look at the notes from the prior month and see what items have changed or if any new information regarding your account should be provided. For example, for this chart string, I wanted to note that more funding will be received from the closeout of a clinical trial award. Once you are done reconciling transactions and updating your notes fields, press Submit to save your information. You will know your information has been successfully saved when the Transaction Data Successfully Saved box appears. Press OK to continue. You will be taken back to the Transactions Reconciliation screen where you can navigate to the next entry screen. Next, we will look at the Budget Adjustment entry screen. On the Budget Adjustment screen, you have the opportunity to update the budget information that will appear on your report. The budget information that automatically appears on this screen is pulled through from PeopleSoft. How you use the Budget Adjustment screen will depend on your division or department's reporting needs. Some reporting needs require that the budget be zeroed out, which can be done by writing the negative value of the budget. As demonstrated here, we will zero out the faculty salary line. You will know your adjustment has been successful when the adjusted budget line reads 0 or the adjusted budget amount you desire. Once you are done making your adjustments, click the Save button to save any adjustments you have made. You will then receive a notice that your budget has saved successfully. Select OK to continue. You will be taken back to the Budget Adjustment screen. Next, we will look at the Payroll Encumbrances entry screen. This is the Payroll Encumbrances entry screen. Employee names listed on this screen represent employees whose payroll was charged during the current budget period. ART allows you to enter manual adjustments to the PeopleSoft accrual-based payroll encumbrances for any employee whose name appears on the Payroll Encumbrances entry screen. Manual adjustments are created by combining values placed in the manual adjustment column with values in the PS accrual-based pay column. For employees who are not named on the payroll encumbrance entry screen, manual entries can be created in the TBD rows to reflect projected salary expenses. Here is an example if we needed to reflect salary and fringe for a new temp casual employee. Note how the fringe column is automatically updated when a manual salary adjustment is made. For this report, though, we don't need to encumber a new temp employee, so we will clear this row. Note the manual adjustment column will be automatically populated if needed when a user chooses to select the Accept Art Encumbrances button. The data for the art encumbrances is based off the budget period information that was entered. Therefore, if you entered a budget period end date in March instead of the end of the fiscal year in June, your art encumbrances and corresponding fringe will be automatically updated to reflect this shortened time frame. Once you have finished making all of the necessary changes to your salary encumbrances, select the Save button. You will then be shown that your payroll data has saved successfully. Select OK to continue. You will then be taken back to the Payroll Encumbrances screen. The last entry screen we will look at is the Other Commitments entry screen. The Other Commitments screen allows you to adjust non-payroll expenses and encumbrances and add open period expenses and encumbrances to your report that have not yet been reflected in ART. Note, this screen is the only location in ART listing year-to-date detail by expense and revenue account codes. And summary reports will roll up to the year-to-date activity and display by budget-only account codes. Thus, to see this detail in your reports, you will need to pull detailed expense or revenue reports for a specific time frame. For this report, we will update the projected expense adjustment column to reflect the items listed in the most recent open period expense and revenue column. It is only when you add the expenses listed in the most recent open period column to the projected expense adjustment column that they will be reflected in your report. Note, if you have an expense such as a regularly occurring lecture fee, you can have that expense prorated over the time frame of your report by selecting the Prorate checkbox, thereby allowing this regularly occurring expense to be reflected as a reoccurring cost. Once you have finished updating the other commitments that you would like to have appear on your reports, select Save. You will be told that your other commitments data has saved successfully. Select OK to continue. Now we will pull a basic report set for a standard non-sponsored report. Note, your department or division may use reports other than the ones shown, and you can learn more about the various ART reports available by visiting the ART training page. First, we will pull a summary report, which will be the top page for our report. The summary report that we will use for this is the non-sponsored cash balance report. Another option would be to use the non-sponsored budget balance report depending on your reporting needs. As you can see here, the summary report contains information that has been placed in the entry screens, in addition to the notes we placed in the PI Notes field. Note, for your PI notes to contain the formatting that is seen in this report, you will need to use HTML formatting codes. A list of helpful HTML codes for your reports can be found on the ART training page. At this point, it is good to verify your summary report's ending balance, highlighted here. Verification is most often done by comparing the ending balance amount in ART against the one available in UM reports. If there is a discrepancy between the two values that is not expected, you will want to double check your entry fields to ensure that you have not overlooked something and rerun your report. If you continue to experience issues with your verification, it is recommended that you work with an experienced ART user in your area to troubleshoot what might be occurring to cause the discrepancy between UM reports and ART. Once you have verified that your report is correct, you can print it to PDF so that this report document can be compiled with other report documents before being electronically filed, emailed, or physically printed for a meeting. Be sure to place your electronic report document in a location that makes sense for your filing system and to give it a name that fits with your reporting needs. Once your summary report has saved successfully, you can begin pulling other documents to attach to it. Next, we will pull an expense detail report by going to the transaction reports and selecting expense variable. Note, you have the option of pulling transaction reports with full descriptions or not, depending on your reporting needs. For this report, we have the option to select dates or accounting periods we want transaction information on. In the case of this report, we will only pull the most recent 2 accounting periods. Though the option to pull data for a smaller or larger time frame is up to you and will depend on your reporting needs. Once you have finished selecting the time frame you wish to pull transaction information for, click the search button. Your transaction report will then be generated. Once you have verified that the transaction report contains the information you need, it can be saved in the same way as your summary report or added to your summary report depending on your reporting needs. For our reporting purposes, we will combine this report with our summary report. Last, we will pull a payroll report to add to the summary and transaction reports that have already been pulled. We now have a complete report set for this chart string. Note, your chart string may require more or fewer reports depending on your division or department's needs. Be sure to visit the ART training page to learn more about the various reports that might be useful for your specific reporting needs. This concludes the non-sponsored ART training demonstration. Please visit the ART training page to view other training sessions or to learn more about the various tools and reports ART has available.